Joining us right now to talk more about this is Bethany McLean. She is Vanity Fair's contributing editor. And Bethany, listening to this is just two counties where at least some companies have decided they're going to go ahead and face the trial with this. What do you think about the calculus trying to figure out whether to settle in some of these situations or go ahead and go to trial?
Well, it's a really interesting calculus. I think the companies, J&J in particular, feel strongly that the laws on which a lot of this is being based, the so-called public nuisance laws, are not being used appropriately, and that if they could fight this all the way to the Supreme Court, they could win. But the issue, of course, is that that will take a lot of time. It will be an enormous strain on resources, and shareholders for sure don't want to see that happen. So they have a decision to make.
That decision, though, when you are talking about settling on a county by county or municipality by municipality situation, what would that add up to over time, too?
Well, it would be enormous if they can't strike this global settlement. There's resolving these cases on a one-off basis. There are well over 2,000 of them. There's just no way to fight through that unless you can get some kind of global settlement. And so that's where we are. And I think the states and everybody who's suing, the plaintiffs in this case, there are just so many issues. One is the payment to the plaintiffs' lawyers. Another is that the states don't want to see happen what happened in tobacco litigation, where there was this massive settlement, but the money ended up being used to plug budget holes, and very little of it actually went to the people who needed it. And then there's this feeling we all have, right, which may be emotional rather than practical, but what about retribution? Don't the people who played such a big role in this have to pay more than, do they just get to wave their hands and pay their shareholders money and make this go away?
What do you think of the states and the counties that have gone first? You look at Oklahoma, you look at these two counties in Ohio. Are they right to go first? Because there is going to be a big pot of money. The question is how that gets divvied up, how much the lawyers take, how much gets splintered and sent in different directions.
Right. Well, there's such a long appeals process for all of this. So in Oklahoma, Johnson & Johnson is appealing the $570 million verdict, which turned out to be overstated by $100 million or so because the judge made an arithmetic error, but whatever. So J&J is appealing that, and that process will take a long time. And so, yes, this is a bellwether case that's going to trial, but if this does end up being fought out, there won't be a decision there won't be a resolve for a really long time, and there'll be less money at the end of it. It's why when I talked to David Sackler, he said to me, and this is both a self-serving comment and a true comment, he said to me, look, let's find a solution. Let's figure out how to pay now and how to work toward a solution instead of all of us chewing up our time and resources in court. And so there's some truth to that, right? This opioid epidemic is an urgent public health crisis, and you want to get the money to the people who need it now. On the other hand, to see companies sort of short-circuit the process in a way and be able to just pay and walk away feels wrong, too. So I think it's a really fraught moment.
Obviously, Sackler with Purdue Pharmaceuticals, that company is going into bankruptcy. What do you think the fate of other companies will be, whether that be Mallinckrodt, whether that be Johnson & Johnson, any of these big names involved?
Well, if they can't strike a settlement on this, I think Teva is the one that's most at risk because they're the smallest company with the least cash flow. The distributors who are being sued are some of the biggest companies, at least by revenue, in the U.S., although their profit margins are thin. So they've got some exposure too. J&J is just facing litigation on so many fronts, and thus far their approach has been, we're fighting this. At some point, I think that becomes unsustainable, both in litigation costs. J&J's got the money to pay for it, but just in terms of management time being spent, I don't think shareholders will stand for it.